Hi, welcome to the zoo, and we're your hosts, Caitlin.
And Josh Zanika.
Alrighty, episode 3. How do you feel?
Feel good. Yep, we're doing it.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of good comments and feedback from family and friends, and just gets me super excited. I don't know. Just a lot of people have said that things feel really real and authentic and natural between us and the conversations that we have. And that just makes me super happy that people can feel that, even though they're not here, I guess, with us. So we wanted to start out talking about just some pop culture and just like shows that we've been watching.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've roped Josh into all these like reality TV shows. Honestly, though, looking back, did you think you'd ever like some of the shows that we watched together?
I think if most husbands are honest with themselves, I think we do kind of enjoy it. I think that guys enjoy the passive aggressiveness that's displayed in the show. I think we think it's funny.
Yeah.
I think it's funny.
Like the passive aggressiveness of the men, or
No,
just
girls.
in general?
Like it's just funny watching how girls fight with each other.
Oh, so you're directing that towards the women, not even the guys.
I mean, I guess sometimes, but I feel like girls are just like in those shows.
Or just petty.
Yeah.
Okay. And just the drama, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I enjoy a good dose of drama.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I will say this, I probably wouldn't watch it by myself without you.
Yeah.
But
that's why there's so many memes, though, I think, about people making fun of their husbands. Like their husbands are walking past the TV and they're like, oh, this show's so stupid. And then they kind of get, a little bit intrigued when their wife's sitting there, and then they get kind of wrapped into it. They're like, actually,
yeah,
who is that chick? Like, I want to know what's going on. So the most interesting one that I've been dying to talk about is the 7M TikTok dancing cult. I don't know, show, documentary on Netflix. I feel like that was just a huge topic. Still kind of is. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are talking about it on TikTok and just in general.
We watched a documentary about it.
Yeah.
It was a three-part episode show. And essentially what I gathered from it was about us, like two sisters that were super close.
I think their last name is Wilkins, the Wilkins sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
They both were super into dance. They would do stuff together. Like they had a TikTok thing together. Mm-hmm. And then as they grew up, one of the sisters eventually went out to California to kind of chase the dream. Then the other sister shortly afterwards went out and followed her. Eventually they got connected with a guy that was a part of this cult, this church thing. And he started dating one of the sisters, the one that originally went out to California. Started hitting it off. She got invited to go to church. Both sisters ended up going to the church initially. One of them ended up feeling like it was kind of weird, got a little weirded out. Mm-hmm. And I think rightfully so. It was kind of weird.
Definitely.
And then the other one just kind of went all in.
Yep. And so basically they had their own TikTok account, the Wilkins sisters. And then she slowly, from the one sister's perspective, kind of just left. And she was scared that things were going to be, I don't know, taken over, I guess, by their account. And so she made a whole new username and password. And then the other sister started her own like dance account on TikTok, I guess, with her boyfriend at the time, like you said. And then they ended up getting married. But the leader...
And they didn't invite... the other sister wasn't invited to the wedding.
Yeah, I don't think any of their family came to the sister's wedding, but...
Like, getting a little bit more direct to it, one of the weird things that the pastor, I can't remember what his name was.
It's like Robert Shin.
Yeah, Robert Shin. One of the things that he was preaching about is that you have to die to yourself to follow Jesus. And what he interpreted that or was preaching that to mean is that you need to cut off everybody in your family.
Yeah, especially if your family's not willing to follow your path. Like he almost was saying they needed to come on the path. And if they're not willing, then you have to cut them out.
And what he means by that is specifically his church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and did they ever say if they identify as a Christian church, or what religion did they identify
they're
as?
Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Christian.
Okay. So it was like a non-denominational Christian
I
church,
believe so.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
But he is Korean, right? Or no? He's Asian, but I can't remember. Okay.
But the church is called Shekinah Church.
Yeah.
And so he's been a pastor for a long time. And there's like in the documentary, there's stories that go back over the course of like 10
The
years.
thing that was so freaky to me is when they go back in the documentary and they talk about, like you said, all of the women that had been hurt by the church. And I mean, there were men too, but I just think a lot of women, it came out later that they were sexually abused by him,
Yeah.
Robert. And then basically a lot of those women told the Wilking parents that they need to get Miranda like out of the, like they were just really scared for her well-being because of the way that they were treated. And so the weirdest part about it to me, though, I didn't show you the newest video. I hope I'm getting it right. It's her, I think her name's Miranda, and then Melanie's the one that's not in it. But Miranda came out with another video on TikTok, and she was just like basically saying she doesn't know if she can ever have a relationship with her family now because of the documentary. She said that her and her husband are scared for their lives and their well-being because they're being followed now and all these things. I don't know. And so it's just weird because people are saying that they're scared for their well-being already being in this cult, essentially. That's what a lot of the members who have left have said. They realized that they were part of a cult, but when they were in it, they didn't realize that. But
so some of the cult-like things, they want you to cut off your family. And so like Miranda just went like radio silent to her family, like completely cut them off.
Yeah.
I think like most parents would probably be a little weirded out by that, and especially now that you and I are parents, like that hits a little bit different. I don't think that there's anything I wouldn't do to try to get our son back from something.
Well, to
like
even
that.
just have contact, like you said. And
it would definitely push me to a crazy place. Like I would probably do things that like I would do whatever I needed to do to get my child back.
That's what the parents did. Like they showed up in LA. They were trying to find where they lived. You know, they're trying to figure out what's going on.
I felt like in the documentary, though, it looked like they were fairly respectful of her decision making, though. Like they didn't like try to pull her into a car and kidnap her and take her back home or anything.
Oh no,
weird like that.
But they, like you said, they were kind of frantic in a way, like most parents probably would be if it felt super off.
Yeah.
And then they're hearing all these stories about sexual abuse and how it's a cult. I mean, any parent would be scared, I think. And
the draw to the cult, though, aside from like them feeling warm and fuzzy and like they're getting closer to God through Robert, is that there's a lot of professional opportunity within it.
Yeah.
Robert, the pastor, has like this kind of like a monopoly. He just has a bunch of super talented dancers. It's like a whole group of them.
Well, he ended up deciding to become almost like a media company. Yeah, it's like a management company for all of these TikTok dancers. But the thing that's so crazy to me is how much money he takes from the dancers. Like when they went through how much they actually take home, that was 30% of tithing going towards the church alone. And then there was a couple other, percentages, but I just don't know why you would want to stay in something like that for that long if you weren't making as much as you could on your own, just being a TikTok star. Which doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I know that there's people that think that the LDS church is a cult.
Yeah. And we had that discussion. I'm curious what you think. Like, looking at documentaries like that where it's just obscene what they do and what they expect, I'm like, how could anyone, in my opinion, think that? I don't know.
Look, this is my opinion on like the differences between like these are my thoughts on it. Number one, that Robert Shin guy is freaking weird. Like he's a weird dude.
Yeah,
he's a weird dude. Honestly, kind of creepy. And when you hear what he was saying, the dude's a narcissist, like super narcissistic. And I don't know that anybody that wasn't entrapped by him or like under his spell, I think most people would recognize that just from listening to what he's saying. I feel like he's definitely preying on people that are vulnerable in California.
Or in a spot that they need help.
Yeah.
Right. Or
now, when it comes to the church, I think that there's a lot of stories out there where people have had interactions with really weird bishops or weird stake presidents. And I don't know that my opinion on this is super strong, but you're putting people that are in a lay ministry in a position where they're giving counsel on things like maybe sexual abuse or really hard things in people's lives. And on a professional aspect, they're just people. They're just people.
Well, and they're not
they
trained
professional training.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are weird. It's not perfect,
They are imperfect.
Growing up, there were some times where I had some weird interactions with bishops. Like I had some that thought that I did things because I don't know. I don't know why. They thought I did things that some other kids said I did. I didn't do it, but they
So
didn't
just
believe.
assumptions.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
assumptions, but they didn't believe me when I told them that I didn't, and they were like convinced that I did what.
Oh, that's really weird.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever told you that, but
You're like, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you. I mean,
yeah, I
like, I
didn't
don't.
really care.
Yeah, yeah.
I was at that point in my life where I didn't really care what he thought anyways. So,
Well, yeah, because
um,
a lot of the time when you're not super close to someone, I mean, it depends on the bishop, but I've had bishops where I feel closer with bishops in the LDS church that I feel like we're not really on the same page or whatever. But I'm like, I'm not going to take your advice if I don't feel like we're connected, or, it's like, yes, I respect you to an extent, but like if a bishop was talking to me the way that they were talking to you, I'd be like, okay, well, I don't really respect you. I probably wouldn't say that to him, but I'm like, I don't,
yeah,
yeah.
and look, we're not saying not to respect bishops. That's not
No,
that's not
no,
that's not what
no.
we're saying. But what we're saying is that there's some nuance here when it comes to the church, and I think that it's okay to not be this stuffy LDS person that just totes the line like a lemming. And because that's not the way that the world works. That's not how organizations work of any size. And especially being in business, like I understand that people aren't perfect. I think that people try their best, but they come up short. They always come up short.
The thing that it doesn't seem like, at least in that show, it seemed like the reason why a lot of these people couldn't get out is because, I don't know, they just had a lot of control
Hmm.
on them, I guess. And so I felt like a lot of the people that were inside of the Shekinah church were just really terrified to leave. And I'm saying, when I compare it to the LDS church, like, I've always felt like I have choices. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, am I going to get my feelings hurt? Like you said, of course, just like you would, I think, with any church that you belong to. But I have choices. I can choose to go to church every Sunday. I can choose to serve a mission.
Hmm.
I can choose to whatever. Right. And so the agency part of it, I feel like a lot of the time with the cults, the agency's kind of taken out of it. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, I think that with the other aspect with cults is that Robert in this position, he puts himself as like the way
hmm
to God. And he
just one
puts,
person.
yeah, he puts himself like he almost replaces Christ in that way. Like he talks about Christ, but he's so narcissistic, and the way that they view him is that if Robert's not happy with me, God's not happy with me. They literally talk about that
Well,
in
yeah,
the
and they talked about
documentary.
how he would call them out on the pulpit and say, because of the TikTok you made, or, whatever they did that he didn't like, he would kind of throw them under the bus, right? And
Yeah,
so, can you imagine, I'm just saying, a bishop at the pulpit calling somebody out for past sins,
I
or, and it's just crazy to me.
I think that for me, and I feel like this is true for you, when it comes to our experience with church, like we're faithful LDS members, but my relationship with God is personal, and I don't feel like I need to go through a bishop or through really anybody to have a close relationship with Jesus Christ and my heavenly Father. When it comes to church, this is my opinion. I'm not saying that this is like doctrine, but when it comes to the fellowship aspect, kind of an introvert anyways. I could take or leave the fellowship. I don't really care. Which that's probably just me. Like I know a lot of people really need that. But when I think of church, I think of ordinances, think of the sacrament, think of the temple, covenants. Really, that's kind of what church is for me.
Yeah.
Access to covenants and ordinances.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Anything else is just extra. Like anything else that's good is just extra on top.
Yeah.
I don't really view it much more or really all that differently from that.
Well, I would say a lot of people who have left the church have talked about that. Like, it's harder to find a sense of community when you're not um regularly attending, I guess, a church. It doesn't have to even be the LDS church. So I do think a lot of people would say they like that aspect of it. And I do, for sure.
I can't
But
relate.
yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, I think it's nuanced. It's different for everybody, like what church really looks like and means. But I think at the end of the day, it's really what keeps you going is your testimony, like you said.
Yeah.
And it is personal, each of our relationships with our Savior. And so,
Yeah, there's just personal experiences that I've had and that
Mhm.
you've had about, like while doing certain things or like it's related to the restoration of the gospel and ordinances that I just can't deny. Like
Yeah.
I can't deny that they were things that happened, and some bad interaction with a bishop that I don't really know that well, really not going to change how I feel about it.
Yeah, well, that's good. I think more people would be better off to kind of put that aside and really just focus on keeping the gospel and it's simple, just your core beliefs and your own testimony. But I think we should pivot. The other show that we've been watching, well, Bridgerton, but the new episodes just came out today, so we haven't watched those. But are you excited about Bridgerton?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
entertained.
Yeah, I thought this season was really good. I'm excited
I
for
like
the
the
new
music,
episodes.
like the
Yeah.
modern twist on the music
I thought it was funny that they brought Pitbull into the Bridgerton
into that one scene.
remix. Yeah, the carriage scene. We don't have to talk about that, but
Mhm.
it is pretty spicy. Bridgerton's pretty spicy. So, couple highs for me. Definitely starting the podcast officially. And it was just like so much excitement and work up for us to start it and then for it to actually come to pass and that we actually did it. It was just super surreal. And yeah, I'm just really proud of us. And I was telling you, I would be listening to podcasts in my car and I would just kind of manifest and picture our own picture come up, as I was listening. And it was just so cool to actually see it, Welcome to the Zoo, come up on my screen. And it just made me super excited for the future. So that was definitely a high for me.
One of the highs for my week was I'm doing something a little bit out of my comfort zone. I decided that I want to learn how to do public speaking. I feel like it's something that I'm supposed to do, like something that I'm feeling called to do. I don't know how big I want to go with it, but I have this prompting that I need to learn how to do it. And so I'm trying to follow it. And I got a coach. His name is Ben Care. Super cool guy. Came and spoke to all my guys at Zunex a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
And
it was super cool.
just really, really glad to be working with him. He's a super, super neat individual. In fact, he and his wife will probably be on the podcast.
I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the highs for sure.
So another high for me, like currently I am seeing a therapist on my own. And it's just been a really good experience for me. She is the first therapist that I've met with that's LDS. So just having that in common has been really cool. I don't know. I feel connected to her. She really listens to me. I'm learning more and more about myself. And you had said that meeting with Ben today, kind of talking about who you are, where you come from. It's just really cool to trust somebody, I guess, with that information. And then just them showing just that care and love, trying to help you work through things. So it's just been a really good experience for me to work with her and almost just have a hype person that is like a third party. I don't know. So I would say therapy for me has been really amazing.
Okay, so this one's kind of interesting. Some people probably won't think this is a high for them, but I enjoyed it. This last week, we took our son to the pool. It's right next to our house. And it's backed up against like some hills. People found that there was like a dead rat in the pool. It had gotten into the pool, tried to get out, but worked its way over to the filter. And some kids found it and screamed. I was there. I thought it was kind of funny. So I went, grabbed it, and threw it in the garbage.
You grabbed it with a doggy bag.
Yep, I grabbed it with a doggy bag. Saved the day.
And it was funny because all the families that were swimming with us left the pool because we
stayed. We didn't care.
Yeah, because they were scared and just grossed out. And we're like, I guess we're just going to keep swimming. I don't know.
Yeah, I told you the chemicals in the pool will probably kill all the germs anyways.
Yeah.
So. And honestly, the thing was pretty fresh. So
yeah. So we just sent it. It's fine. I finally watched Dune. You convinced me to watch. I had never seen the first one. And so we watched the first and the second one. And I was surprised at how much I liked it. So, I mean, Zendaya's always a slay. Actually, speaking of that word slay, somebody told me that slay is like not cool anymore, but it's fine. I'm still going to say it.
When did that happen?
Gen Z, I don't know.
Did always telling us how we're not cool anymore. We also found out that here's a low. Found out that I have the wrong socks. Apparently, I have like these ankle socks that I buy from Costco. Apparently, they're not cool anymore. So, yeah. Newsflash to me.
We were talking about that with my cousin, and she was saying that millennials that still wear ankle socks are considered to be like not as cool because there's this mid sock now that's in between your ankle. It's not like a super high sock, right? It's like a mid whatever. Gen Z is just saying that ankle socks are out and like the mid socks are in.
But dude, they're gonna have weird tan lines.
Yeah, I guess they don't care about that. They care about the fashion. So,
Fashion.
but Dune is legit. I love it. I loved it. So, and then another low for us is Pink Eye swept our fam.
So that counts for both of us.
Yeah. So that was kind of rough.
Our son had pink eye during the course of him trying to like pile drive me into the ground or wrestle with me. I got it somehow.
Yep. So that was kind of rough. All right. So moving on, I had this topic written down because I had watched a TikTok and I've just been talking with some friends about this topic anyway. So this is kind of like our relationship segment since this is kind of our genre. But the question is divorce an option? Yes or no? Let's chat. What do you think? Is divorce an option? Yes or no?
Like, is divorce an option for you and me? No.
But why is that for you?
Because I feel like you and I came to the relationship at a level where it's just not needed. And we can talk more about that.
Needed.
It shouldn't be an option. But I will say this, I have some friends who were married and one of them later ended up becoming schizophrenic and they had a kid together. And I think it was just a lot. And I don't know if it was like totally safe or what exactly happened. There's some things like that that are just not 100% within your control. And I don't blame her for that. You know, like that's just super hard. It's super hard. And if they're not the same person that you married, and I know that, you know, they say in sickness and in health, but like that's one that it can endanger things or it's just not, I don't know. That's just a really hard choice. It's a really hard choice. And I feel bad about that. I remember when I learned about that, I cried because I cared both about them. I think that there's things that will happen or things that people do where divorce is a lot more likely to happen. And there's things that you can do to protect yourself against it.
Yeah.
I don't know that is divorce an option is really like the right question.
Yeah, it's nuanced because the TikTok, to give a little bit of context that I saw, was there are these big kind of Instagrammers, podcasters now. Their names are Matt and Abby. And they had a TikTok and a podcast episode talking about this topic. And they said for them, they went into their marriage thinking that divorce will never be an option for us. And so do I think that that's a good mindset to have? Yes, especially in our day and age where people are getting divorced. I would say the percentage has probably skyrocketed of how many people are divorced compared to in, I don't know, 1960s, 1970s. I don't know. But there are a lot of marriages that I've seen that people stay married just to stay married when they probably should have gotten divorced, you know, stayed together for the kids, whatever it may be. We don't know everyone's situation. But the context with that TikTok that I saw, somebody kind of did a joint TikTok and said for them, divorce is always an option because like what you said, you don't know what's going to come up in your marriage and somebody could make a choice and say, like for me, you know, when we got married, I told you my deal breaker is I wanted to marry somebody who is really loyal because I've been cheated on in the past and it wrecked me. And I said, if you did cheat on me, like that is my absolute deal breaker. And I really wanted to stick with that because I wanted you to know how serious it was for me. But obviously I don't know what I would do for sure 100% if you did cheat on me. And so I know there's people out there that maybe said the same thing and then they decided to stay and they worked it out. But at the same time, I feel like you can't control the other person, but you still should, I don't know, just go into it. I think having the mindset that you want to stick together no matter what. And so for me, I don't know. I'm not sure on that question. Like you said, I don't know if that's the right question just because it's nuanced. I think that depending on the situation, divorce probably could be an option. But I don't think you should go into your marriage thinking we're going to get divorced.
For me, I feel like one of the trends, and I don't know if this is true or not, somebody could correct me. I feel like a lot of times people that get married when they're super young, I've seen those relationships more. I've seen those ones get divorced. Let me just tell you the reason why I don't think that you and I were to get divorced. So number one, because we're not, we love each other.
But I also don't want people to think that we're like prideful. Like we're never,
we're not prideful. Yeah. But I think that there's certain things that you and I like brought to the table when it came to our relationship that can be a little bit dangerous if you're not mindful of it, if you go into a relationship like that. So, for example, one of the things that I've seen people do, and I myself have done this in the past, like when I was in high school, looking for happiness to be fulfilled by somebody else in a relationship. If you have a hole in you and you're not happy and you're going into a relationship putting the emotional burden on somebody else
Yeah.
to fulfill your happiness, it's not a good foundation to build off of. And neither one of us was like that when we were married, or when we were dating. You and I both had a really strong and solid understanding of who we were
Yeah.
as individuals, and we were looking for a relationship to complement one another more so than fix or fill holes or fill gaps.
Yeah.
And I think that if I had gotten married earlier, I can't say that I was ready for that. If I had gotten married to the girl in the last episode that I talked about, it definitely would have been a divorce. It definitely would have been a divorce. No doubt in my mind,
Because
we would have gotten divorced.
flags when you were dating, but yeah.
And honestly, it's not even so much her. I came to that relationship not being happy with who I was.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why that relationship happened in the first place.
Yeah.
And she could say the same thing about me. It's not like I'm the end all be all. I'm not a 10 out of 10. I definitely wasn't right then. People attract the level that they're at. And if you're not at a good place right now, like a 5 is not going to attract a 10. And I'm not talking about looks. I'm talking about happiness. And happiness is an arbitrary feeling. Maybe happiness isn't the right word. If you're unfulfilled in life, or you don't know who you are, and you get into a relationship and you just absorb who that person is, or you mold yourself to be who that person wants you to be, it's not a good foundation.
Yeah.
I think in relationships, it's normal at some point for us to kind of adopt a couple of mannerisms from each other, but not personality.
It's that same saying that people have, said that water sinks its own level, and I think exactly what you said. When we're not in the best place ourselves, it's just really easy to get into a relationship that might not be the best for us in both ways, right? And I think that's why sometimes it is harder, like you said, when you're younger, because I don't know, just depending on the person, they could be ready for that. They could not be ready for that. Right. And we've kind of talked about that before, where we both felt like we were late bloomers in a way. I think that it can work for some couples that kind of grow together and they learn and grow and accept each other through all the phases, which you have to do that no matter what. Even if you get married at 21, you get married at 30, people are going to change and they're going to evolve. But I think it's a lot easier when, from our experience, just seeing, I think, just brains being developed, us knowing who we are, having the experiences that we needed first before we kind of stepped into that commitment. But I'm not going to say that it can't work for people, because it has. And there's a lot of couples who get married younger that make it work, and they're strong. And so
I think the thing that I've noticed with couples that are married younger and who grow together and make it work is that they never stop connecting with each other, like emotionally. They grow together and they don't grow apart. And there's some aspects of that where it's unavoidable. Maybe one partner does something that's just completely unacceptable and the other doesn't, and it's an undeserved type of situation. I know that when you're wanting connection and when I'm wanting connection, you and I, we put things aside and we do that.
Well, and
we're not perfect at it.
We've talked about that in therapy, which something that I did want to bring up. If you have been on an LDS mission, you know that you do like a companionship inventory. And that's something that we've done in the past that has helped us a lot, where you kind of check in with each other. And in therapy, we kind of talked about, you can go on a walk, right? And you can talk about how the week went. You can plan for the week coming up, like what went right, what went well, what didn't go well. But I think it just comes down to, like you said, connecting, making sure you have date nights and making that a priority, but also in our day and age, putting your phone down and actually having deep conversation and making that time that you have together, a lot of the time, quality time, you know? And so I think for us, that's something that I've always wanted to keep working at, is doing kind of an inventory, but also making date night and the quality time a priority as well. And just communicating. Because I think when you're open, you're talking about things a lot, it's always going to be better, because I just think the resentment can build and build and build when you don't, I don't know, just bring up the things that you really need to bring up in that moment. I don't know. I just have had conversations with a lot of my friends, and they just know that when they keep things inside and shove it down, I don't think that's ever going to be a good thing, right? We always need to like voice.
I don't think anybody would ever accuse you and me of not voicing what we think, though.
Yeah. But I'm saying that's why I think it's been a lot better for us in
Yeah.
general, because we both are really open with communication. And it's always been pretty open between us, even though sometimes it turns into a fight or we hurt each other. We usually can come to a resolution and
I think we
see
always come to a resolution.
where that person was coming from, right? And I would rather that, right? I would rather be open than not, even if you don't know exactly like where it's going to head or how that person's going to take it, because sometimes you just need to get it off your chest and figure it out, right? So
Mhm.
okay, so moving on really quick, the last question that I got brought up was, should you marry for looks or not?
I did. I mean,
So,
you have an awesome personality, but you're hot. So
so to answer that, thank you for saying that. But to answer that, for me, I think we both were super attracted to each other. Like you said, not only in looks, but in personality. And I think that's something that always has been told to me, that for sure looks are going to fade, and you're going to get older, you're going to change, and you're going to get pregnant, you're going to maybe struggle with your weight up and down, I don't know, just depending on what life throws at you. But if you really just don't like that person in general, they're not a nice person, it's going to be a lot harder to deal with later on, wouldn't you say? It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
Yeah. So this was another topic that got brought up just between that Matt and Abby couple. I just thought it was interesting to think about, because they were saying that their significant other, it's almost like they were less attracted to them after they got married, depending on, I don't really know what went on in their life. Like maybe they went through a hard time with postpartum, or they had a fight or something like that that made that person less attractive. But I think, I don't know, I think you should just marry somebody that you're attracted to. And that's really it. I don't know. I just think it's going to be up and down. But if you marry for
I think
that,
you should marry somebody that you're attracted to, but there definitely needs to be a lot of substance underneath that, because marriage is work. It
Yeah.
is work. And as much as we love each other, it's not always easy. Love is not passive. Like, you can't be passive about showing somebody and showing up for somebody every single day, loving them. It requires work. And like, I'm sorry, but if all there was to it was looks, it's not enough. It's not enough. There has
No.
to be love. Like, I have to love you, who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And you have to feel the same way. Like, the connection has to be deeper than that.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Because that's what's going to keep you together in the long run, you know, because you just don't know. Like you said, in sickness and in health, what if tomorrow we got in a car accident and I was burned and my entire face was, I don't know, wrecked?
That would really suck.
I mean, yeah, that would be horrible. But I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, I just remember you saying this when we were dating. Like, you could tell that there was something different about me, like stripping it all away. And I think this is because you're a spiritual person. Yes, you were attracted to me, but I think that you saw me deeper than just the surface. And you told me that from your patriarchal blessing, which we can talk about that later. I'm sure there's people out there that maybe don't know exactly what that is, but you had said that in that blessing that you received, it talked about how you would recognize your wife through her spirit. And so that meant so much to me when you told me that you recognize something different about me and my soul and my spirit. It almost like gets me a little bit emotional. But I think because we had the church in common and I felt like you saw me on a deeper level, it made me realize why I wanted to marry you, because you loved me not just for my looks, but because of who I am as a person, you know? And I feel like that's always what I wanted, to find in somebody, that they would see me for me, truly, like deep down who I am, even before I came to this earth, you know? And having that in common with you meant so much to me because I've dated non-members in the past, and I just felt like we didn't have that in common. And for me personally, I felt that it was really easy for those people to want to maybe give up or to cheat or to look elsewhere or whatever it might be, right? When you don't have that deep, deep love that you're talking about and that foundation
Mm-hmm.
for seeing somebody on a deeper level.
Yeah. That was a good, that was good. It's a good conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
So that is our answer on, is divorce an option?
Is divorce an option, and should you marry for looks or
And
not?
should you marry for looks?
Yep. Okay, so now let's segue into something funny since I was just getting emotional. Josh, I'm sorry, but we're going to throw you under the bus.
Caitlin wants me to embarrass myself.
The people are waiting for it. The people are waiting for it.
I'll have it known that I did not agree to say this. She just put it in like the show itinerary.
So we had talked about our honeymoon previously, and sorry, we had to pause for a second, but let me just say, I just think it's funny because people have said in the past that I've heard what your honeymoon looks like is going to be a good glimpse of what your marriage looks like. And our honeymoon was crazy. I want Josh to share some of these. I know it's intense, a little embarrassing, so we'll say there's a trigger warning right now for anyone who doesn't want to hear about anything sexual, about a honeymoon, about mishaps. Yeah. So just be forewarned that it's going to be a little bit intense.
I guess this is just one of those types of podcasts. So
We got to give the people what they want.
Man, this is embarrassing. Okay. I made this decision. Like I noticed a couple weeks before we got married that my hairline was starting to thin. And I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to try that finasteride thing, like the hair thing that stops your hair from falling out.
Yep.
So I start taking it. A couple weeks go by. We get married. And wedding night comes.
At the Grand America.
At the Grand America.
Mm-hmm.
And we're excited, you know, like I honestly don't know what the hell I'm doing, but it is not working. It is not working. And I'm starting to freak out. I'm super embarrassed. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, dude, my wife is just going to think I'm not attracted to her. I'm like super worried about what she's going to think. I'm worried about her feelings.
Yeah.
This is so dumb. I text my uncle who's a doctor and I ask him, like, what is going on? And he asked me if I recently started taking any medication. And I told him I was taking finasteride, and he told me that that's what it was. I didn't know this, but it can cause erectile dysfunction, and it completely shut me down. So for the first like 3 days of our honeymoon, I immediately stopped taking it. But like it took like 3 days of our honeymoon
to
get
3 days?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was because of the time in the air and just by the time we got to Tanzania.
Okay, but I have to say, that night we had gotten DoorDash to Grand America, Taco Bell.
Yeah, we tried. And didn't work. Yeah, we ended up getting Taco Bell and just hung out in the bed.
We're eating tacos. And I feel like we kept trying to figure it out, but I feel like I was pretty patient and I wasn't weird. And
you weren't weird.
And I did not make you feel bad about it.
No, you didn't. I was just super embarrassed.
Yeah, and you were super embarrassed, and rightfully so. But it was okay because we figured it out, you know, and you stopped taking it, and it was all good.
And we just didn't never take it again.
We didn't consummate the first night, but that's okay.
Yep.
So that's the first story that kind of started out that honeymoon with a bang. Then we go to Africa, and you know, we were having a good time doing the safari thing.
Everything was
working.
Everything's working the way it's supposed to.
We were having fun. And then I think this happened once we moved on from the safari portion to Zanzibar, the beach portion, right?
Yep. So every healthy couple, in my opinion, farts in front of each other. By the way, just so everybody knows, Caitlin farted in front of me first.
Don't think that's
and
true.
It was a big one.
Do not think that's true. And I'm not going to put my stamp of approval on that.
It's okay. You don't have to. I remember it.
I feel like you broke the barrier.
I did not. It was you.
Oh.
It was when you were in that phase of like being like a little bit pushier and going for what you want. Just like smooching me first, asking to be my girlfriend, and then farting.
Whatever.
Just like laying out your territory.
Oh my gosh, okay, we're done.
Anyways, we're just like laying on the bed. We don't have clothes on, and I'm laying on my stomach, and I let one go, and I sharted. And I was so disgusted and embarrassed that I was like, Caitlin, just like throw me a towel and leave. That's probably one of the most like embarrassing moments of my life, which I'm now sharing on this podcast. And Caitlin's just like in shock. I don't know what was going through your head. Did you think it was funny in the moment? Because I didn't.
I mean, in the moment, I was definitely in shock. But the funniest part to me was when it happened and you were just so embarrassed because, you know, we'd only been married like a week.
Yeah.
And you're like, just leave, just get out of here, just go. And I'm like, where am I supposed to go? Like, we're married.
I just wanted to like clean myself up.
I know, but in my mind, I'm like, we're married now, bro.
Dude.
You're not going anywhere. So I left.
I guess that's true love.
So I left the room to go get you a towel, let you figure out and clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Then the next morning, like, so I put the towel outside, and then the next morning, honestly, we forgot about the towel. We go out to breakfast, and then we start coming back, and the maids are giving us this really weird look. And we go back in, and I realize, oh my gosh, the towel's gone. So they're probably thinking, what in the hell? You know,
happened last night.
Yep. But so that's a gross, but I guess kind of funny at my expense.
Yep.
Honeymoon story.
There were a few more sprinkled in there, but those are the highlights. So thanks so much, Josh, for being vulnerable and sharing your most embarrassing moment on the podcast.
Like I said earlier, this was not on the itinerary until we just got here. I did not know I was going to be sharing this, but I'm a good sport. So
you signed up for the crazy train, you know. So we'll end it there, and welcome to the zoo.